right? Constantly looking inward to see what's going on inside. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Because we all know the nafs can easily deceive us into believing that we are acting for the sake of God, right? When in truth, what was really motivating us is self-centered desires, right? We have to constantly evaluate ourselves. To what extent is my activity and my worshiping God affecting my character, creating somebody that is Rabbani, right? If I am somebody who does my fara'id, does all of those things, but I am still mean to people, I still treat people harshly, I still act hastily, right? Then what's really going on, right? We should pause before we act. We should not hasten to follow that which comes to our mind, and we should think over matters and ponder whether I'm doing this thing for Allah or not. And we have to constantly do this, so that we don't be amongst those who unknowingly worship their own souls. نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. So I'll end here, but I hope inshallah we can get a conversation going and gain from some of your insights as well.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. We thank our stars, Rilwan Onikohi, and the topic again is danger of heedlessness, fighting our own ego. So, in the last 40 minutes, he has been feeding us with some spiritual words from the Quran and from the Sunnah. At this moment, I think we've reached the Q&A session. So if we have questions, contributions, or comments, let's feel free to bring questions or contributions at 817-717-5685. Once again, it's 817-717-5685 if we have questions for those stars. Alhamdulillah, the lecture again is the danger of heedlessness, and how fighting our own ego. So it's just our naps. How do we fight it? Because sometimes, like he said, it can get to the point whereby, just like someone that wear glasses and your glasses is foggy, so you can't really see. So you have eyes, but again, the eyes are not useful. So it means they might be getting, we might get to that level if we don't kill. Ego is something we need to kill, so we need to kill our ego at that moment. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. I think I have some questions. Inshallah, I have some questions, but before the question, Ustaz, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Nam, okay, you actually went off for a moment. Okay, so I'm trying to make sure. I think we had some technical issue. I'm trying to fix that at the same time, but it's just the video, but the radio is actually going on as we speak. But I'm just trying to do this and make sure people that are watching live on YouTube on the NCNMO website can still view the stream. So alhamdulillah, we apologize if you're on the stream and I could see at some point it stopped, so it's connection issues. So we apologize for that, but inshallah we'll proceed with the Q&A. If you have questions or contributions, feel free to bring it at 817-717-5685. It's the number. So just quick second, Ustaz, let me quickly fix this so
Okay.
we can get people back on the stream. So I just want to quickly make sure I have this fixed. So inshallah. So as I'm trying to do this, I think at the same time I think I can ask one or two questions. Okay, so we're talking about ego today, and this ego of a thing. I think every one of us, has. I mean, we have ego. So how do we? I'm not sure. Maybe I wasn't paying attention at that point. Did you at any point in the course of your lecture mention how we can actually fight against it, kill it, because there's an ayah when Moses was telling his people when he came back and he saw they were worshiping the calf, and he was like, you guys have to kill your ego. So which means because the ego actually leads one to disobey Allah. So how do we go about? Because sometimes this is a nafs which we have to embark on a jihad. So there's jihad nafs. So we have to like fight against ourselves, the self that has this, eagerness to do things that we don't like, we regret at the end of the day, that we know this is not right. But at that point, our ego is like, it's the right thing. Go do it. You just say astaghfirullah and that's it. So
SubhanAllah. Yeah, I mean, SubhanAllah. Yeah, that's a huge question, and you're right. We didn't really get to go into that as much. Um, so, and it's interesting what you said about fakotulu anfusakum, and where with the story of Musa, and use. So the thing about that, this is somewhat of a tangent, so I hope people don't mind, but that ayah is often read as though some people were literally killed. But what you said is an interpretation as well. And so it's interesting that you mentioned that. I wouldn't say which way I go on that, but that is interesting. But yeah, so can we kill our ego? This is something that the scholars actually deferred on, and it kind of maybe it depends on which type of scholars you're asking. So some of the scholars of spirituality believed it was possible to kill your ego, but most people felt that this it's not really something that we can actually kill. Instead, it's a spectrum. There's a spectrum, right? Instead of thinking of it as a on yes or no, so I either have ego or I don't. It's more like a spectrum where somebody can be on the terrible side of the spectrum or on the highest, closer to the highest side, or somewhere in between. And so I am more both views, are well argued. I am more partial to the notion that the human journey is such that there will always be something trying to pull you away, right? So some people, so there's the view that can be totally destroyed and killed. That is a view. It can be totally destroyed and killed, so that this person reaches this point where there's nothing in their mind, nothing ever trying to pull them away. However, there's the other view which I am partial to, but both are well represented. That there will always be that something that will want to pull you away, and the task is to dim it, as much as possible, so that to the point where it doesn't even affect you. Now that is possible. Where so something might come in you that says I shouldn't give, or the other billah. Depending on where one is on his or her spiritual journey, that might influence them, or it might not even, like, they can immediately say, nah, that's dumb, that's stupid, and I'm going to give. It depends on where one is. And so people say, so I think the answer to this, based on what many scholars say, is there's that constant introspection, constantly asking, like, knowing what's going on inside, and so that I should be able to tell what my nafs is saying. Ideally, that's the right thing. I should be able to tell that my nafs wants me not to give, and the way the response to that is to do its opposite. So that's what you would typically hear as the remedy to the nafs. I wake up at like 2 a.m. Let's just say I woke up for whatever reason. My eyes woke up and the thought of tahajjud comes to mind. Now that is what scholars call tanazzulat. These are little, what's the way to, like, little gifts that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends your way. It's an opportunity to grab on. It's an opportunity to turn to Allah, right? Little gifts like that. For some reason you just walk in and you just woke up at 2 a.m. and you thought, maybe I should get up for tahajjud. What does your nafs tell you? And again, in order to know this, you gotta be in tune with yourself. Your nafs is probably gonna tell you, nah, I'm tired. So what the scholars would say is, if you want to fix your nafs, you're going to get up. You got to do the opposite of what your nafs is saying. And the only way to know that is to be aware. It's to be aware, to be in tune with oneself. So doing the opposite of what the nafs calls us to, what the scholars say is the remedy.
Alhamdulillah. Uh, I believe the stream is back. We apologize. So if you have questions, comments, or contributions, feel free to bring it at 817-717-5685. Yeah, Imam is really monitoring it. I think it's back. Is it back? Uh, Imam Lukman. All right. So, inshallah, if we have questions, feel free to bring your questions at 817-717-5685. The topic again is danger of heedlessness, fighting our own ego. Alhamdulillah, another question that I have here has to do with I'm trying to correlate between ego and the free will which Allah has given to man. So man has the free will to decide on what he should accept and not. So and sometimes the way many I will say not maybe not scholars, but many many Islamic leaders or lecturers or all that. So we know Islam it has to be absolute submission to the will of God. So if God has given us this free will, so at what point is so what is the essence, the concept of this free will? Is there really a free will when we have to, submit our ego? We don't have control over ourselves, be it good or bad. So what's the essence of the free will?
Yeah, subhanallah. And again, this mashallah heavyweight discussion here. And so we'll just get into it a little bit. Um, and of course, what I'm saying is only one way of presenting this, right? Because there are various ways of understanding this. But yeah, certainly especially when it comes to more, to morality and to ethics, we certainly have free will, right? This is what distinguishes the humans and the jinn, of course, is that we can choose to obey God. And what I mean by we can choose is that we have the literal capacity. That's what I mean by we can choose, because we know ultimately we are required to go one as opposed to the other way. But we have the actual capacity. When you got up for suhoor this morning, you could have. I mean, when you got up to pray fajr, you had the capacity to not pray fajr. See, the sun doesn't have any choice about its rotations. Or if I let my phone go, it's going to drop.
Yeah.
It doesn't get to say I'm not going to drop. You know, but when I pray Fajr this morning, or when you pray Fajr, you actually had the physical capacity of not doing so, and you chose to do so. Now you chose to obey God because you knew that is what is, for various reasons. It ultimately, eventually, is going to be because it's out of love for God and purely for the pleasure of God. But it could also be for the sake of, for Jannah. It could also be because we are attuned to what God requires of us, right? So we take this path of following God. But yeah, especially when it comes to moral activity, to moral actions, we do have that free will. It's important to recognize, though, that free will is couched in Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala's decree. Um, there's so much going on that led me to the ability to pray Fajr. That is beyond, like, if you think of, we've probably seen a panoramic picture before, those panoramic pictures that kind of take a picture of the entire horizon, for example. Remember that God has a panoramic view of existence. So God knows all the little details. If you were to consider yourself, all the details that led up to where you are today, you couldn't even add it all. There's no way. You so that also plays a role in the fact that you even woke up for Fajr. So yes, I had the choice to get up, but there's all sorts of things. What's going on with my mind, that I had soundness of mind? How much power do I have over the fact that I am sane, right? Did I get to choose to be sane? I don't get to choose to be sane. That is just something that Allah Subhanahu has given me. Did I get to, I didn't get to just choose many things of my circumstance. So it's couched within Allah's decree. It is Allah that, for example, determined that I will be sane, and so on and so forth. But at the small level, what people say at the microscopic level, if you zoom in, yes, I could have chosen my body not to make fajr, and alhamdulillah, right? We did pray fajr.
Alhamdulillah. So, um, so technically, it means the free will is still there, but it's just about subjecting that free will to the will of Allah.
Yep.
Alhamdulillah. Now, if we have questions, we'll have still have more time on the segment today. The number to call for questions or contribution is 817-717-5685. Our guest today is Ustaz Relwan Onikoyi, and this segment is sponsored by the National Council of Nigerian Muslim Organization, NCNMO. So visit their website at ncnmo.org. And once again, it's ncnmo.org. We're live streaming. Go to the ncnmo.com .org org/live. We're live streaming there right now, and we are at the Q&A session of the segment. So if you have questions, don't hesitate. Please call in and ask your question. So going to the next question. The next question, you made mention about entitlement, this self entitlement, whereby because we observing, we're following Allah's will, so to speak. We, like you said, we pray Fajr, the five salawats, we fast in the month of Ramadan and all that. But yet, we still see some people that are not like you, just exactly what you said, they're not emotionally attached. They do all these things on the surface. It looks good. They want to give charity, but are they giving it for the sake of Allah? They're just doing it for people to like, oh, I'm a philanthropist. And are they praying? They just want to like go to place and let people know, oh, I'm a Muslim. They do all those things, but the emotional attachment is not there, and that could have been as a result of you just have to, as a Muslim, we tend to promote that docile culture, which you just have to submit totally without inquiries, without conviction. So how how would you explain that? Because I have another question, but I have another question after this one. But this question about some people that are not emotionally attached. Should we classify them? We can't see their nerves. We don't know what's going on behind their heart or mind. We don't know, but we technically know there are some people that do this just for the sake to be just for people to praise them. So how do people like that, and some people will even tell you, even beside people that are doing it just for show off and all that, some people will tell you, for some reason, whenever I'm praying, I find it very difficult to concentrate. I just find it very difficult from one thought to the next, from one thought to the next. So what is the way out?
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think, and I think you even kind of brought together two different levels in a sense, because there's the one who kind of, like we said, just somewhat gets on cruise control, and they just pray, and before you know it, they finish praying and don't even remember that they had started. Like it's just like that, right?
Yeah.
And of course, it's not our role to speak about individuals because only God knows what's going on with that person, right? We can talk about a societal problem, because I think we can talk about a societal problem, and we can talk about problems in our own very prayers, right? So I want to do both. Want to think about societally and want to think of to what extent am I this person. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنْ صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ يُرَاءُونَ. So those Allah says, woe to those who pray who are heedless in their prayer, right? I should read this and I should my first thought should be, whoa, am I among them? Right? All of us listening, we want to make sure that's our first concern, thinking about ourselves first, right? So, whoa, am I among them? To what extent am I heedless? Um, so unfortunately, there is a situation where somebody might not even care, right? Somebody might not even care and just go on, they just bam, 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 they just do the prayer and that's it. And that is that's a seriously problematic state to be in. I think a better state is that somebody does care. So the state of the person where you ask me, they say, I pray and um, I feel like I'm not present and my thoughts just go from one to one. See, remember we're talking about it's a spectrum, right? And this person is somewhat is they're definitely ahead of the person who doesn't care. So they because they're aware of the situation and they want to improve. So that is that there's it's it's a situation to be concerned with, but there's goodness in wanting it to be better. So let us we should be appreciative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowing us to be aware of the problem.
mm,
Remember, not being aware of the problem is the worst type of blindness.
mm,
Right? So this person has an appreciation for I need to do better. Now people offer different solutions to this. Among them, I think, is trying to understand what they're saying. So it's okay if you focus, on short surahs that you know the meaning of, and
mm,
you take your time in reciting it and connecting with what is being said, right? I think that's useful. If one struggles with this, if one struggles with they feel like they're not present, then I think yeah, you might want to stick to those things that you know, and that this is work because it means I might have to actually learn what I'm saying. It's
mm,
work. Ibadah is work. Connecting with Allah is work. You know. So I might need to pick up my what does Surah Al-Ikhlas mean if that's where I have to start. If
mm,
that's where I start, that's where I have to start. It's everybody has different places. We're all coming from different rankings. Eventually, somebody will be looking at what does Ayatul Kursi mean, because we all know Ayatul Kursi.
mm,
Take your time in pondering on those verses. We don't want to just recite them and just like kind of do it automatically, so
mm,
that when I'm reciting them in the Quran, I'm engaging with it and reflect on how these ayat relate to my life,
mm,
right? Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Wa aqimis salata li dhikri." There's an objective to salah, and it is remembrance of God. So reflecting on how these verses, what do they mean for me? And it can be, if it's as simple as Surah Al-Ikhlas, you're reciting Qul Huwallahu Ahad, Allahu Samad, and if you know what those means, there's always something for you to think about when you're reciting those verses. Oh, how many times have I relied on other than Allah? Oh,
mm,
how many times have I lost trust in Allah when I know Allah is a Samad?
mm.
You know, Connecting with that, and it's okay. I think even in your Salah, you can check in with yourself. Well, this is a practice that many scholars suggest. You check in with yourself. What's going on? Sometimes we might find that, oh, I was present in the beginning of the rakah, and at the end of the rakah, I'm not. It's a struggle, right? Maybe you check in. You see what's going on. Ideally you're aware. You're trying to be, or you're checking yourself throughout. But depending on where you are, there might be stations. Maybe you're checking with yourself at the beginning and end of each rakah. And over time you increase with that. You're being deliberate in checking with yourself. Yeah. So I think I would say those things: surah that you know, or you learn those short surah that you understand, so you can connect with the meaning, and checking with yourself. Don't beat yourself up too much, in the sense that this concern of thoughts going is a very common one. But continue to work on it. Just ask Allah to help you with it and continue working on it. And inshallah, we'll find that we'll continuously improve.
Alhamdulillah. I would thank our staff for the response. Once again, we're still taking questions. So if you have any question or contribution, feel free to bring it at 817-717-5685. Once again, the number to call is 817-717-5685. Let me ask, so a follow-up question, or the actual question for the self entitlement that most Muslim, I do all I have to do. So isn't that, I mean, Allah said somewhere in the Quran that the return for good deeds is actually, the reward for good deed is good. Nothing comes, if you do good, you get good. So, which kind of makes sense. But when so feeling that self entitlement, like, okay, I'm doing everything I've been commanded to do. I pray 5 times daily. I believe in the Tawheed and all that. I do everything that is expected of a Muslim. So why shouldn't I feel entitled that Jannah should be my house? Isn't that counterintuitive with the ayah that says, I mean, every goodie deserves a good reward? So
Yeah.
how do you explain that? Because
It's
some
true.
people use it against we Muslims. They will say in our religion we're not too sure about where we're going. Like there's is not I mean, paradise is not guaranteed being a Muslim. So how do I tell a non-Muslim like my Jannah is guaranteed?
Okay, exactly. So great question, subhanallah. So one can say paradise is guaranteed to the one that lived his life as a true Muslim and died on true Islam. That we can say. The question is, I better not assume, the issue is I better not assume that there's Muslim by the sake of identity, right? I name myself Muslim. We need to be able to distinguish who is Muslim and not Muslim so I can know who I can marry. How does inheritance work? Does a person get a janaza and so on and so forth? So that's in terms of the worldly affairs and identity. So I'm a Muslim, you're a Muslim, and so on. And then there's true Islam. Only God knows the state of my actual Islam. And we're not just saying that because we're trying to, like we're not just saying nice things. That's actually just the reality. Every act that I do, only God knows the level of sincerity in that act. I can tap into it, and depending on my state, depending on the individual state, they can tap into the reality of that sincerity to a good extent. But what is its actual reality, right? Only God knows. Only God knows the true. In fact, this is why some of the scholars say that we seek istighfar directly after prayer, because you can almost guarantee there's some defects in that salah, right? You can almost guarantee whether it's in the form, but if we've perfected that in what's going on inside, and then we seek istighfar. So only God knows the state of my true Islam. So it's almost like it's self-evident fact for me. So I know that anyone who is a true Muslim Allah will give them Jannah because Allah does not break His promise. But do I want to think I just know that like my Islam is pure and true always 100%? The good thing is, so I don't want to be entitled to that because I just can't be. It's actually just not real. There's nothing you can actually hold on to because I don't have that kind of knowledge. God has that kind of knowledge. Remember, I can know myself and I should know myself as much as possible. It's very important, but God knows me way more than I do. So I know for a fact that only God has that knowledge. I'm not going to claim to be entitled, but I can hope in God. So we're not pessimists. And so I feel like perhaps our friends from the Christians might feel like, oh, because these Muslims don't know they're going to paradise, they're pessimists. We're not pessimists, right? Remember the prophets would use in the Quran like Atoma'u, right? He is the God that I hope will forgive me, right? We have hope in God, and that hope is a positive, comforting one too. Yes, of course, there's fear of Jahannam, but scholars will generally say you balance the two, and not just balance. You balance the two, but that hope should be a bit higher than the fear, actually, because Allah SWT says that His rahmah wasiyat his anger and his everything, right? Kulla shay, right? So we have hope in Allah's mercy. The self-entitlement thing is just a fact. It's just a fact that I can't know that my Islam is 100% sincere. It's not even just ideology. That's just reality in a sense.
Alhamdulillah, may Allah accept our deed and make us that true Muslims
I mean, ya
he's expecting from us. So alhamdulillah, I'm just gonna try to take one more question. If there are no questions from our listeners, and I hope you're there, we're gonna call the show. The lecture. We're gonna draw the curtain at 6:15. Well, another question that I want to ask is about ibadah again, and so when Allah was in Surah to Ujrat, Quran, that's Quran 49, verse 13, when Allah was saying that, "O you mankind, yeah, you nas," and He said, "Surely we created you of a male and a female. We have made you races and tribes, that you may get mutually acquainted. Surely the most honorable among you in the providence of Allah are the most pious." Surely Allah is ever knowing and ever cognizant. So now we're talking about ego. So I think we're looking at it from the spiritual aspect. So just going by this ayah, going by this ayah, now sometimes we tend to see ourselves, we feel we are better than some other people. We look at them, we look down at them. Just so, is that considered a sin? Because you think, my race is better than his race, my culture is better than his culture, and this actually is born out of ego, thinking that you're superior than this person and all that.
Mm.
So what is the Islamic view on that? Is that a sin? Is it something we have to refrain from, or we shouldn't even feel that way?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is dangerous, right? And I think it depends on what's going on. If I feel like so let's say somebody believes that they are better purely like so Shaitan believed he's better because he's made from fire and the person is made and human beings are made from clay. There's no basis for superiority there. I mean, fire can do a lot of really wonderful, cool things, but so can clay. Houses, homes,
Yeah.
pottery. So there's no basis there. That was purely pride. So that one is a problem, and we do need to question: is our pride, does it look like this, where it's really just because I want to just like myself and not the other, you know? And then there's something that Allah SWT has given us sometimes, which might be better. So there might be some, and so there's a foundation here. So there might be something in one culture that is better than the way people do things in another culture.
Another culture.
Um, so, right? So it was okay to see the goodness in that, to see the value in this over that, but the pride comes in attributing it to oneself, you know so as opposed to saying that the mind is think that should be like, oh, alhamdulillah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has raised me in a culture where this thing is valued, right? But that's different from seeing this culture as categorically better than another. That's definitely pride, and it's probably also untrue. That's never possible, really. No, there's no culture that can be better than some other culture in everything. That's not going to happen, right? So that's definitely pride. But if you find value in some good, in one culture over another, there's basis there. There's fine in finding that value, but as long as it doesn't make you haughty, make you think you as a person is better. That one thing is better. Those many things are better, right? But it's different from thinking. So let's just give an example. The yellow people versus the orange people. So we're just making it up, right? If the yellow culture has some traits that are better than the orange, it's fine for the yellow to say, "Thank God that we have these things that those don't." But it's different from saying we yellow people are better than those people. It's different.
Yeah, those are two different things. Alhamdulillah. Mashallah. We thank our stars Rulwan Onikwe for this beautiful lecture. Danger of heedlessness and fighting our own ego. So we have to fight it. Our nerves, it's something we have to fight against sometimes. Like he said, even, we've been encouraged. This is the last 10 days of Ramadan. We should utilize the benefit that comes with the last 10 days. But again, that's that ego, well, ego or the nerves or whatever we classify it as, doesn't want us to take act on those good things. So rather sleep and wake up without no reward. So may Allah save us from that. Alhamdulillah, it's 6:18 Central Time, and I think it's 7:18 Eastern Time. I'm gonna be requesting that our stars give us the closing dua. And once again, the segment is brought to us by the National Council of Nigerian Muslim Organization, NCNMO. So go to our website at ncnmo.org. So if you are a Muslim, most especially a Nigerian Muslim here in the United States, and your chapter does not belong to this national body, you can talk to your imam, and you can also reach us at info@ncnmo.org, and you can send inquiries on how you can be part of this beautiful organization. So, Stars, like I said, give us the closing dua, and we can call it a day today.
Um, اللهم يا ربنا إنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين.
Amen.
آمنا فاغفر لنا وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. ربنا اصرف عنا عذاب جهنم إن عذابها كان غراما. اللهم إنا نسألك رضاك والجنة يا رب العالمين، ونعوذ بك من سخطك والنار. اللهم يا رب العالمين إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا. اللهم يا رب العالمين إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا. اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us of all of our sins. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us of all of our excesses in our affairs, and to make our feet firm on His path, and to guide us towards Him. We ask
Amen.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from the evils of our own selves. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the awareness to always prevent ourselves from harm, spiritual harm and otherwise. Ya Allah, please accept from us. Ya Allah, please accept from us.
Amen.
إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. Allahumma
Amen.
ameen.
Amen. Amen. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. All right, so I'll let those stats go. So we end in the segment. Uh, yeah, yeah, I'm trying. MashaAllah. All right, so that we've come to the end of the segment, and feel free to join us tomorrow for another segment that will be for the Nigerian Muslim Association of Dallas.